All right. Welcome to this special night of the Exchange Live session. It is a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Abel Mireles. I'm one of the founders of the Jazz Exchange, um, and we, as you probably know, if you're one of those that's been checking out a series of conversations, we've been doing this for about a year, a little bit more than a year, since the pandemic started, and we're very happy to bring in all this special guests. It's been such an amazing uh, thing that it's been happening and it's exactly what we wanted to do, build this space for artists, for audiences to meet some of the newest and baddest artists in the New York City area. And even beyond that, we've had people from different parts of the world with technology helping us out here. And so tonight is another night. Want to encourage you to follow us in all the social media handles that you see to my right, left, one of those. But you'll see that we do have an Instagram, we have a Facebook, we have a YouTube channel, we have a Twitter, and we have our website too. So if you want to stay connected with us and different things that we're doing, we do have different programs through which we actually build communities. That's one of our main goals, to build communities through music. And with that being said, I'd like to mention again our one of our most important programs is our educational programs, the Jazz Exchange educational program, which is a collaboration with a nonprofit based in Montclair called the Jazz House Kids. They've been helping us out to make possible the collaboration of some kids from the borderland of El Paso and Juarez, along with the great organization of ESMAD, who's been sponsoring them to come all the way out here and spend 2 weeks over the summer and study with some of the greatest musicians in this area of New York and New Jersey. And we want to continue doing that. If you want to join the efforts, make sure to reach out to us, go to our website, send us an email, give us a call. We're more than happy to connect you with the kids that you can, or the different kids we're trying to bring this year that's coming up. I believe Jazz House Kids wants to do their program in person, so it's a big step. I think a lot of us are very positive that things are getting better, and we're going to do it in a safely way. So if you want to jump on and support some of the students, by all means, reach out to us. We also have still our program of our Jazz Exchange Relief Fund, still up and running. The GoFundMe is still going, and if you want to help us continue this is a way for us to help musicians that are in need and that are out of work to work from their own homes to record their parts, and this situation that we're all in, to be a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for them to stay creative. So with this program, we keep helping musicians doing that. So if you want to join us, by all means, reach out to us too as well. And Of course, this month is a very special month for musicians, especially for jazz musicians. This is Jazz Appreciation Month. At the at the end of this day, at the end of this month, we celebrate International Jazz Day on April 30th. I think it's also in Mexico. It's the El Día del Niño, Children's Day too. So it's a really cool celebration. I've been seeing some my friends in Mexico that they're doing promotion for both things, the Children's Day and then also Jazz International Jazz Day. So with that being said, we have very special guests this month. We do have a very special uh, stream that we're going to be doing on International Jazz Day. So be on the lookout for that. We are going to be featuring a lot of the things that we've been doing, a lot of the people that we have been collaborating with, and throughout this whole year and this whole time that we actually been uh, operating here in the New York area. So be on the lookout and for that, and make sure to listen to a good jazz record out there. If if you've been away from jazz, make sure that this month is the month that you come back, because there's so many musicians making really good music out there, and one of them is our very special guest today. He is an amazing bassist. He is originally from Houston, Texas, uh, and but he's been out here in New York for a long time, and he's played with so many different people. And we're so excited to know more about the things that he's doing as a musician, and for him to share his journey with us. Of like him moving out here to New York, and then also just in general, just the things that he's doing. So, without further ado, we're gonna introduce our special guest today, Mr. Marcos Varela. How are you, sir?
Good, good. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm
Thanks
doing
so much
good.
for having me.
Hey,
It's
thank you
great.
so much, Marcos. I really appreciate it, man. You you're a busy man, and we appreciate your time to come here to the Jazz Exchange and share some of the things that you're doing. Where are you tuning in from?
I'm actually in Houston at the moment.
Woo,
I'm moving
H
back here
Town.
for yes, H Town. So
That's cool.
I've been here kind of on and off over the past year, just some family reasons, and then
Mm,
also, it was a good time to kind of come back and help out with that. And but I've been coming back to New York a lot for work, and so I've been in both places now that it's coming back. It seems like it's opening up more and more, little by little, and looks like I'll be there more permanently, and that's good. It's going to be good to be back in my home, and I've called New York home for a long time now, and
right,
yeah, it's my home at the end of the day. As your heart is down
right.
in Texas and on the in Mexico and
Yeah,
same here. So it still have my heart here too. But
we
New
have
York is
two.
definitely my
How about
home.
we say we have two homes?
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Home number
exactly.
one, home number two. That's
Because
one.
how long have you been in? You've been up there a while now too, right?
Yeah, not as much as you though, but
Hmm.
we're going into 6 years this
Okay, awesome,
July,
nice.
so we got a little taste of it.
Yeah,
you
well,
know, we got a
they
little
say I
taste
guess
of
when
it.
you hit the 10-year mark, right? You can call yourself a New
I
Yorker or something.
know, that's right. Yeah, we haven't hit that yet, but
Yeah, more than halfway there. You're getting close.
but it's been such a wonderful time. Even though we've gone through such a crazy year, I think it's still been very 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 good to us. The whole New York City area and New Jersey. People out here
Yeah.
are wonderful, and we're like-minded people.
Mm.
We're concentrated. It's a concentration of people, really pushing towards keeping the music going and the culture, not just the music, but the culture
Of
comes
course.
behind. Um, Let me ask you.
But more light.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There
Uh,
you go. A little dark.
how are things in Houston, man? How's the
Um,
scene over there? How's everything?
uh, the scene's a bit. It's definitely a bit more open. The vaccines were rolled out much faster, I would say, than in the Northeast. I've
Oh,
noticed, and I
really?
was able to get in there pretty early. I'm completely vaccinated now. And it stayed kind of a fair bit open. I wouldn't say that it was totally open. I mean, there was definitely strong decrease in work like everywhere, but I was it's been nice. I've been able to reconnect with some musicians down here that I didn't really get a chance to growing up because I left when I was 18 and went to New York. So that's actually been kind of a
Wow.
blessing. The only thing that I've has been bringing me down here in recent years was Vincent Gardner started a big band that I'm part of down here. So I've been coming down with that, and some fellow New Yorkers are in that as well. And I think Lauren Sevian, she's in that too. And yeah, so
Nice.
it's actually been kind of fun. She's an old friend, and we've been, it's been fun to have her come down here because I've always known her from our New York hangs, and
Right.
we've been coming down here intermittently, getting to show her some good food and some good hangs, and you know, it's nice. It's like worlds are mixing, so it's
Yeah, man, that's so cool even though you've been in New York most of your 18 and over live, you still have connections. I mean, we were talking earlier about
mhm.
uh, uh, one time that you went into El Paso, right, to like play
Yeah,
with Brad Lilly. Is that right?
Brad Lely, yeah. So Brad, when I was pretty young, I was still in high school. There was a thing called NFAA, and I think it still exists, but it was a kind of an honor band. You'd have to put in a tape and be selected, and it was pretty cool. So we I got accepted to this program, and one of the things we did was we got to go to Japan, and Brad was our kind of chaperone, teacher, to kind of guide us as kids because we were all 18. And it was a really good band. It was Philip Dizak was in it. He was a
Oh,
great trumpet
nice.
player and a really nice piano player who lives in LA named Mahesh Balasoria.
Mm.
Zach Harmon, who's a really nice drummer from Wisconsin, and Joris Roloffs. He's a great Dutch alto player, clarinetist, but I think he's back in Amsterdam now.
Mm.
So it was pretty cool. Like it was my first kind of ever overseas touring experience, and Brad was there, man. So, I was like, he was still living in New York at the time, and he brought, he said, man, when you come to New York, I'm going to put you to work. And he gave me my first gig in New York, and it was at this place called Pumpkins, which was way out off the 2 train at church, I remember. And it had the most amazing jerk chicken place right there. And we would always eat that after the gig. And it was cool. I learned a lot. I got to meet so many great musicians from Bruce Barth, Sylvia
Bruce
Cuenca,
Bar.
Alvester, who we were talking about
That's
earlier.
right.
Some of my first kind of gigs in New York, so I was really kind of thrown into the fire a bit with some of my heroes I'd only heard on records.
Yeah.
And that was really humbling. And I was like, oh man, I got to get my stuff together. I thought I
Mm-hmm.
was playing good, but now I really have to get my nose to the grindstone and practice and work.
Right.
And so Brad was very kind of influential in that. He really looked out. And shortly thereafter, he got that job at Texas Tech. I want to say
Oh, at Texas
maybe
Tech first
first. That was
before North Texas.
exactly. And so he wanted
Wow.
to do a record that was with strings, and he had me and Alvester, and he has a pianist friend from Munich who still lives in Munich named Klaus Reible. And so that was really cool. He put together a little tour, and we did this with strings record for him at Texas Tech. And then we went to Doso, we went to Las Cruces with Marty, who we talked about
Mario
earlier.
Olivas,
Marty Oliva.
shout out
And
to Marty.
yeah, shout out to Marty. I haven't seen him in years. He's a really fun guy. And then
Yeah, I mean,
and
just briefly on him, he's been leading that collaboration of bringing peoples from New York for some time, and I think I think the whole scene should be thankful that he's been doing that, and the people that help him or around him. I mean, I remember meeting Brad Lilly through one of the programs that he did. I'm trying to think, man. Maybe you were there, like when
possibly, yeah.
I was like, who's
We
that
met,
guy on
yeah, that's what I
bass?
was thinking. I'm like, I wonder if we met before, way back.
Yeah, I wonder if
Uh,
that's so crazy now that we're
yeah.
out here in New York and it's like now we're connecting dots. That's really cool, man. Music, it's amazing like that. So you did a little tour in the Southwest, basically.
Yeah, basically it was that whole region. We played we played Rio Doso, I remember. We played Las Cruces, we played El Paso, and we played like Amarillo, Lubbock, basically that whole
Wow.
region. And then we did that record. And then shortly thereafter, he applied for that new job at UNT, and he's been there a long time. I know he's tenured, but he's been there maybe over 10 years now. Again,
Wow.
yeah, but we stay in touch. We play in that big band of Vincent Gardner's together, and so it's been fun seeing him and reconnecting with him. Yeah, he's still a person in my life that I know and work with, and he's even uh, mentored some musicians that are really nice, younger musicians now that I'm actually doing some recording with a real nice young drummer, Jerome Gillespie, who's from Houston, and a really
Mm.
talented alto player, Armir Lee, who's living in Boston. We're about to record his debut record coming up here at the end of May in Boston. So,
In
you know,
Boston. Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool.
yeah.
Cool. So, man, that's really cool. Like how somebody like Brad, that's an amazing saxophonist, and really just a teacher of the music. You could say
Hmm.
that he kind of would take you under his wing and then just take you around and just show you how the whole side of business and traveling and all that. So you went to, what was the high school that you went to, just so that the people that are
Oh,
listening
yeah.
to.
I went to HSPVA, which is a well-known arts high school out of Houston. I guess it's known for a lot of great jazz musicians came through. From
Right.
Chris Dave, Eric Harlan, Kendrick Scott, Mike Moreno,
Mike Moreno.
Walter Smith, Robert Glasper,
Ooh.
uh, Jason Moran. It's a
Man,
long
what's
list.
going on with that school,
Yeah,
man?
yeah. It was a lot to live up to. You get in the classroom and you'd see their little plaques of stuff they've done or all state or stuff like that, and you're like, oh man, I want to get in all state, or I want to work towards some of these things. So it was an inspiring place, and the students really pushed each other. There were some really talented musicians that were near my age. Brandon Lee was a bit older, and this
Mm,
really wonderful drummer, Jamar Williams, a great alto player that I think lives in Seattle now. Rex Gregory. He lived in New Orleans for a long time.
mm-hmm.
So it was great. Those guys really pushed me because I was pretty late comer to music. I didn't. I always loved it, and I kind of had a little bit of an ear for it, but I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with it. I was growing up in Houston. It was such a sports town, so a lot of my childhood
Sports
spent.
town. Yeah.
Yeah, I spent time playing a lot of baseball, did that for years, and played Pop Warner football. Kind of did the.
Right-handed or left-handed?
I was right-handed, man. I played. I kind of moved around through my childhood, but I always loved it. My grandmother loved
Mm,
the game, and I still love it. After I got into music, I kind of lost touch with it for a while,
yeah,
but when I moved back to New York, it's such a big baseball town
that's
that
true,
I just
right?
kind of started getting back into it, and
Yep.
I still love to watch and follow, and that's one of my favorite things to do on days off is
Yeah,
just going out to City Field and
that's
kind of it's
cool.
relaxing.
Hey, when you because you talk about your years at this arts high school, that's so
Hmm.
wonderful. Did you know that what kind of high school it was? Is it kind of hard to get in there? And then also
Yeah.
like a pack kind of question there.
Hmm.
Who do you think is responsible? Because I've actually have a friend of mine that's a really good friend of mine that went to that high school in
Oh, really?
Houston. There's a drummer. His name's Nico Perkins. I don't know
Okay.
if you've met him, but
I haven't
he
met Nico.
he
No.
ended up moving. I think he might be younger than you, younger than us. And but amazing drummer too, man.
Really
Just
nice.
moved to El Paso, and as soon as we first heard him, we were like, "What? This guy's not from here,"
Eh,
right away. And then, oh yeah, I'm from Houston, and we became friends. We played for years. He recorded in an album that I haven't put out yet, but working on it. But
cool.
yeah, I'm very curious, man, and for also like audience members,
Hmm.
is this who's responsible for all these things in at the high school? Is this a curriculum? Is this a specific person in college?
Well, there's a
And
there's a really really amazing educator that he used to be at the university north of Houston at Sam Houston State named Bob Morgan,
Bob
and
Morgan.
he really, I guess, there was a person before him, Ed Trongoni, that was there a few years, and then Bob, I think, took over maybe late 70s. I don't know the exact timeline, but he really was very proactive in bringing a lot of great musicians to the school, like Schofield and McCoy and the Brecker brothers. It just seemed like he created an environment to learn, because I mean, the school goes back to the late 70s in
Mm.
Houston, and it seemed like he really got a lot of those kids inspired, and then that passed on to a current the current teacher there named Warren Sneed, who does a wonderful job there, and I was under him, but I got connected to Bob too as well through his kind of alumni. He has a festival every year around Christmas, and he's always you know kind of gets everyone back together, all of us jazz guys from the
Man,
school. So it's
that's
it's
cool.
pretty cool. There's a lot of generations, and of younger guys now. You have James Francis, who went to the school, and Jeremy Dutton. So there's a lot of inspiring kids, and everybody seems to have a kind of a little bit something different.
Yeah,
Everyone.
that's
I
true.
mean, there's a big church and gospel scene here
That's true.
in Houston, and that's very influential. Of course, in the music as well, and being in East Texas, it's a heavy blues influence. So many of the great great blues players. from here, Dean Bone Walker and Lightning Hopkins. So there's that kind of influence. But there was always this kind of urge to, after you kind of planted the seeds of wanting to learn this music, going out and kind of getting to a new place, trying to go to New York or LA or somewhere else just to kind of see what else we can do or grow it.
Yeah, man, and I want to thank you for sharing some of this things that I need to be more hip, and I think all of us that audience members, because we talk about New York, we talk about New Orleans, we talk about Chicago, and I feel like also here comes Texas too with a lot of all these people that are contributing to the music and continuing this. I mean, I know we're kind of living through through the time that a
Hmm.
lot of these musicians are, happening right now, and I mean, not even to mentioning the people, older generations of amazing musicians from Texas, but like the ones also like doing it now. It's just really gonna change things for good in the music, in jazz specifically. So I think that's really amazing, man. I'd like to discuss with you this because we have some music that you prepared for
Awesome.
us, and
Cool.
I just find it really amazing how we talk about Texas, we're talking about the different artists that are coming out of there, and we talk about how every single of them are creating their own, they all have their own thing, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm very interested on your thing on Marcos Varela, like because you put out an album in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. This called San Jacinto, right? And we have
San
one
Ignacio.
San
San
Ignacio.
Ignacio.
I'm sorry, not
Yeah,
San
yeah, yeah,
Jacinto.
yeah.
Good correction
That's
there.
all good. It's all
But
good.
so San Ignacio, and
Mhm.
we have one of the songs prepared for us. Can you talk to us a little bit about this? What is the story behind this album?
Oh, so yeah, I wanted to kind of create. So my New York experience, I would say this first record was a culmination of that. I wanted to work with some elders that had been mentors or I had worked in their band and kind of learned from, and then I wanted to play with some contemporaries that I was working with at the time, and that was kind of the whole idea. So I started thinking, well, what's a common thread in that? And I said, well, my family's history story on both sides is interesting, but I kind of focused a little bit on my dad's kind of story, and they go back, I guess they maybe like since 1750s in Texas. So it's a long time. They were,
Wow.
they go back to when, but they were living on both sides of the in that on the Rio Grande region. It was in
Hmm.
Mexico and in what is now known, at that point it was all Spain.
Right. That's
And
right.
so they ended up kind of, my dad always likes to reference, that they always say Texas flew under six flags, but we flew under seven, because there was a brief period where Laredo was its own country in that area. And so he always tells
Wow.
these stories, and so I was like, well, that's a really interesting story in this little town, San Ignacio, which is still there, and it's pretty neat. It's like a beautiful little. It's not many people live there. It's 900 people inhabit it, and
Wow.
it's right on the Rio Grande, and it looks like it has all this Spanish colonial architecture from that time that's been rebuilt. And I kind of wanted to thread that in with my journey, because I feel like it's pretty interesting to think about, because I had so much family there and just that has stayed in that region. My dad was kind of the first to venture out, moving to Houston, and then I ventured to New York. So it was kind of supposed to represent the journey I've had through music, but also represent this giving ode to this family journey. So they there was a couple songs that are originals on the record. One of them was Colinas de Santa Maria, which is that region where my family uh, settled, and still is there. And then the other one was this song I did called "Where the Wild Things Are," which I named after my favorite childhood book, and it's kind of has a very,
Oh.
because that was my favorite childhood book. So all of it is kind of a nostalgic feeling kind of idea. The whole record, all of it kind of has that thread going through it. But the one I think we were going to play from my
Yep.
record, we have two originals. Is "Where the Wild Things Are," and this one is it
Colinas.
was kind of, Oh, we're gonna do Colinas. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So that one, that this version we're doing is from actually not my original record, but a record that was just released um, from a wonderful drummer Rob Garcia's record. We actually recorded this in Barcelona. It kind of started out as a collaborative project about April 2019. We, we put together a tour, and it was, me originally, kind of me, Noah Preminger, who's a wonderful tenor player, lives in Boston, and Rob, and we decided to do a chordless project. No chords, only bass and
bass,
two horns
drums, and okay,
and two, yeah. So it's alto saxophone and tenor saxophone, and I think the chemistry on this record was just really special. We had a really wonderful tour, played some beautiful places, ate some wonderful food, and it was just kind of one of those magical weeks, just like feel musically. I just felt really attached to that. In this version of Colinas, because had previously recorded it on my record. I love that version too, but I love this one without the chords. It gives it kind of a neat open feeling, and kind of gives the idea of how I wanted the song to feel originally.
that's so awesome. And going back to, I know I kind of tripped you a little bit saying about the album, and then
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
it connects, right? Because you're talking about the roots of your dad's side of the family in
Mm.
Mexico, and then now we're going to Spain. Like
Yes, exactly. You're kind of
that's so
coming full
awesome.
circle.
How'd you like Spain? Was that the first time you've been to Spain?
I've been to Spain a few times over the years. There's a wonderful singer that I worked with out of near Malaga. Her name's Pepe Niebla, and so I'd been going over there with her band, and then I'd been over there with for a tour with my band actually in
Nice,
2017. But that was more, we did Belgium and we did France and we did Spain. So I had
nice.
been over there a fair bit over the years, and also with a wonderful pianist named Yago Vasquez, who's from Galicia.
Mm,
So I've been kind of all over. I love Spain. It's a neat country because it feels like every region has a totally different feel. The
yeah,
food's totally different, the cultures are totally different, and it really, it's neat to feel that. And I really love all of them for different reasons.
yeah,
I mean, the one, yeah, I mean, Andalusia has a special feel.
Andalusia.
Galicia did. I like the Basque country a lot, and I love Catalan. They all really have wonderful audiences. They love the music. They have a long history of listening to
To
jazz
jazz, right?
and
Yeah,
great festivals. Yeah,
yeah,
and
man.
great musicians, some Spanish musicians. Some wonderful Spanish musicians.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Well, this is an album. This song that we're gonna hear, "Colinas de Santa Maria," is one of your compositions off of Rob Garcia's album that came out of this collaboration, right? Was this recorded in New York or in Spain?
This one was recorded in Barcelona, so we
Oh,
recorded this
nice.
actually over there. Yep, and it's pretty much all first takes.
All
The whole
first
record.
takes.
Yeah, it's kind of actually pretty cool for that. It's got a very live feel to it, and I love the way these guys play together. The Noah and John, they just have a real beautiful chemistry, and they really play this song wonderfully. It's a piece that's in, for musical terms, it's in 11/4, but it's different kind of rhythmic permutations
Mm-hmm.
of 11/4, and they really navigate through it and make it feel great. And Rob takes a wonderful solo on it as well. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, let's check it out. This is Colinas de Santa Maria off of Rob Garcia's album. This is Marcos Varela's composition. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah, man. I mean, look at that. uh, if you want to mute Marcus, yeah, there you go. Oh man, what a what a great tune. I mean, I just gotta say, you know, the permutations were just felt so natural. I was just bouncing my head like if I was in four. It just felt good.
That's the whole point.
It
Yeah,
was
just to get it that get that fluidity happening between those odd times, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I really like that vibe. You know, when it's a yeah, it is something very complicated that you guys are playing just to keep that groove, but it feels so natural, so good. I mean, and like you said, you know, the two horn players are really locking in and listening to each other, and the vibe
mhm.
of not really having the chorus in there. I really love that vibe. It's different. It's definitely his own sound. It's definitely his
Yes,
own vibe, right?
yes, I totally agree. I think it allows me to play differently too because all of a sudden it gives you a lot more weight with every note you play. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that as a bassist, it's important to be in those situations because then you can really learn how to define and outline things and know when to be, just sometimes you need to just be simple and so clear, and I think that that kind of playing is important for everyone to experience as our role as bassists. So I really enjoyed just that whole tour because I was able to kind of explore different routes, and since they were such good listeners, all of those musicians are John O'Gallagher, Noah Primiger, and Rob Garcia. They're such great listeners. It just really allowed for everyone to just kind of become a unit quickly, and I
yeah.
that and we had a blast. So
Man,
yeah, we get to do it again.
yeah, I hope you guys, you know, I'm sure you guys are gonna do it. You know, once I think we're staying very positive that things are really I mean, people are gonna wanna hear this stuff live, you know, so we're gonna be so eager to just come out to the show. So we're staying positive with that. Man, I love that what you were just touching on that, you know, for all the musicians listening to the stream and the ones that are gonna listen after, you know, because this is almost kind of like a live podcast, video cast podcast,
Hmm.
and people ended up checking this out, you know, a lot. So you were mentioning the whole thing of your role as a bass player. It's so interesting how like uh, it's so important it is to. I mean, obviously, as a bass player, I'm sure you have that responsibility, that weight of like, I have to be clear. I have to be like, this is.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you're doing that. For example, this track that we just heard. But at the same time, you also know how to stretch here and there,
Yeah.
and that's the I think that's the trickiest part for you know, especially because some of this because this talks we doing for upcoming musicians that want to know more about how experiences of how you develop your career. Of
Hmm.
I just want to address how important you the point that you said of like I have to be clear,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like
It's
I
it.
have to be clear. I've you know yeah we want to do all these amazing things and all these runs and but like hey here if I don't have this how am I gonna do that you know what I mean like
Mhm.
and
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's walk crawling before you walk kind of thing. You have to kind of learn how to get bass lines together very simply. Using those methods, arpeggiated, scalar, and then transcribing, listening to how bass lines are being formed by greats. I would check out Ray Brown or Oscar Pettiford or kind of go way back. I'm a bit of a historian in my personality. I love the history of a lot of things,
that's cool.
as hence my record. So when I did get into jazz, I was about 16, 15, 16, and I was like, well, let me go back. Let me go to the beginning. When I was reading, I was like, oh, well, you got to check out Jimmy Bland and Israel Crosby. And I was like, okay, let me go check out these guys. So I kind of started with a lot of those, end of the swing era, beginning of bebop era guys, and would, try to get that stuff under my fingers, just the notes and how they were phrasing. And I thought it was nice to do just go all the way back there and get that and then see how that evolution happened, how that turned into, Oscar Pettiford, Red Mitchell, and eventually Scott LaFaro, kind of those guys in the late 50s, because the evolution of the instrument, I mean, in jazz in general, it really happened it happens fast. I mean, especially back then, you're like, wow, these are only 10-year difference in periods. And then eventually leading to my one of my mentors was Ron Carter. And
Yes.
I studied with Ron. He really kind of opened the door for me. I was working with Charlie Persip, the great drummer Charlie Persip's band,
Ooh. Rest in
and I was,
peace, Charlie.
yeah, I know he just passed away, man,
Yeah.
and he was a really good friend, and we, and he just was such a good guy. I learned a
Yeah.
lot from him. I
That's
learned a
cool.
lot, but he was like, you should get together with Ron Carter. He played on my first record date, and we're old friends. And I said, I really love that. I think he could open some doors for me. And Ron really kind of, because you can get overwhelmed in New York, and I felt like I was getting overwhelmed with information. There were so many ways, like what you're talking about. There's so many ways to do things, and Ron was just like, let's just cut out the noise, do technically play it like this, all these kind of little details. He kind of just broke it down. Do this first, learn how to get a consistent sound, learn how to all of these little things, because he's so detail oriented. It really cleared up like all those questions I had about clarity. And then harmonically, he's such an innovator in terms of the way bass lines were played. I mean, you had it
Ron.
rhythmically and harmonically, because you had, before him, there's not a lot of examples of how guys would play, like different inversions and different pedal tones. And he was the
Mm.
first guy to really deal with that, and dealing with a lot of like that new kind of harmony that was happening in Miles's band. He
Mm-hmm.
really outlined it very clearly. He was kind of that anchor. He really kept it, Herb, because Herbie's playing, he has Herbie and Tony are, over that, and he's just kind of holding down that role. So just learning that
Yeah.
while being creative while still pushing it, knowing when his musicality is bar none. I mean, I'm always just so impressed. Even today, you can go hear him, and it's like a lesson every time he walks the changes through impressions or anything like that. I'm like, wow, what is going on here? It's just
Yeah.
like it's like one chorus he's playing those changes that are on the page maybe that you would learn, but after that it's just everyone has to have very open ears, because it's
That's
like a
true.
Bach chorale going on. It's
Man,
amazing.
it's so amazing that we get to meet and study with people like that you got to meet and study and study with Ron
Hmm.
Carter. I mean,
Yeah,
what in the
it's a
world,
blessing.
right?
Yeah,
Like
it's a blessing. Yeah,
it doesn't get better any better than
yeah,
that. And
yeah,
and
man.
and as getting to know more of your stuff, I was checking out that he actually wrote the liner notes for your first
Oh
album,
yeah.
right, as a soloist.
He did, yeah.
Wow.
I brought it to him, and he was, he kind of volunteered it. He was like, well, I could write some notes. I'm like, sure.
Sure.
And he
No, you
really,
should. I bet you were like, let me think about that, Ron. I'll get back to you.
well, I wanted his feedback. I'd been
Right.
studying with him, and before I
Of
released it
course.
or anything, I was like, well, what do you think? I wanted, and he was so kind to give his time to listen to it, and really give me some good critiques. He's not always the he doesn't mince words. Let's say, he'll say, you could do this better, this is great, but he's very clear about that too, and I appreciate that honesty. I
Yeah.
like that. I because it makes you better, and you want that, and it makes you a better person to critique yourself, because we all can be very hard on ourselves, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you got to learn to also love certain things too. And he kind of taught me that a bit too. Learn
Oh,
to
that's
like
cool.
certain things about your playing, because it can't be all bad.
Yeah, talking
It'll be
about
all
jazz musicians, we can really criticize ourselves for sure.
exactly. We get
And
we get hard on ourselves, and it is. I mean, it's a very hard, it's a hard thing to do, because it's like learning the language. Learning how to,
yeah,
it's so amazing. How this art form is created,
it
but
is, man. And what with that in mind, though, would you mind sharing the next song that you have for us? Now, this is from
oh
your album.
yes, San
This is
Ignacio.
where the wild things are. Can you tell us more
Yeah.
about this piece?
So this came out of an interesting kind of a few influences. I had been taking a class with the great saxophonist Jane Ara Bloom. I remember in college, and she wanted us to write something that only had 5 notes.
Mm.
And I was like, well, what. And so I was listening to a lot of West African music at the time, because I
Oh.
had been working with this great clarinetist, Ron Etkin, who I've worked with for years. I
Mm.
don't know if you know Ron, but he had a project that I was part of called Kelenya, and I was getting really into that. And I said, well, how about I take a few different influences? I'll think rhythmically because they're it was these kind of pentatonic sounds they were using, but it was how it was rhythmically developing, which was so hip to me. So that was a big influence in this tune. Was the body of this tune was kind of like, let me find, these kind of different rhythmic things that are working together and against each other at the same time, with just all, because it's all the same five notes,
Right.
the whole body of the tune. And then the intro kind of came from, I wanted something, I just felt like it couldn't just start, it needed to build into it.
Mm,
So I wrote this kind of four stave intro that was kind of influenced by some Ornette music that I had been listening to, a lot of
mm,
the sci-fi sessions. And I kind of built in, so the tune kind of came out of those two different influences. And it's become a tune that people like. It has kind of a rock funk feel.
mm.
So, people love that. And it has a bluesy kind of influence too, and references some childhood bands in the melody that I liked, and yeah, so it came from a lot of places. It had a lot of different influences, and
Yeah.
people, and it usually is the song that I close my sets out with, because I don't know, it's a fan
Is
favorite.
is a closer for sure. Hey, but
Yeah.
man, the person on this album, it's
Mm.
amazing. Like you were saying, like really tapping into the roots of this
Television.
music, the people that have really been playing this music for, I mean, George
Yeah.
Cables and Billy
Hmm.
Hart and Dana Steven and Kush Abadi. Can you tell us how is it like before we listen to the song? Like how is it
Okay.
that you piece these people together, man? Like it's
So
wonderful.
they were all personal relationships. At the end of my stint at New School, Billy Hart put together his first incarnation of a band he now calls the Academy. It's
Mm,
called, and it was kind of his thing. And so it was a lot of young musicians that he was getting together. And I think he still does it. A lot of people have kind of passed through it that are great people on the scene. But I was in one of the first incarnations, and it was me, Theo Croker,
Theo Kroger, yeah.
Irwin Hall,
Oh, Irwin, nice.
Sullivan Fortner. It was
Yeah.
Sullivan, like when he first moved to New York. So all really inspiring peers, and we did gigs around town. We did the JVC Jazz Festival, and when it still was going on. And
Right.
I wanted to record, we had played some of this music that is on my record in that band that Billy wanted to feature me on. So when I came time to record, and since my record was a story of my come, it's a whole story. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, let me include I want to include Billy for sure, because he's part of that journey,
Yeah.
and he was a big part of that, and some of the pieces that we did one of the arrangements of one of his ballads that we had done in the band. We did a trio piece that he'd done with George Mraz, and so a lot of the repertoire on the record was from that actual band. And George, I had met through Winnard Harper, as we discussed earlier,
That's right.
had wanted was teaching at that Betty Carter Jazz Ahead program at the end of my university years, and he said, we need a bass player. Would you be down to do it? And I said, sure, and so George was there, and we struck up a friendship, and kind of a mentor protege kind of thing. I'd learned his music, and
Ooh.
and I just felt like, I had to have him be a part of it, because he and Billy had a relationship from very young. Billy had, kind of, I think, brought him into the scene a bit, from what I know. Don't quote me on that, but
Mm.
they had a relationship. I had a relationship with him. I just felt like that would be a good
Good fit. Yeah.
good fit. And then with the younger guys, Edin Ladine and Kush and Arnold Lee, we had been
Yeah.
playing a
Nadine.
lot together, just gigs around New York. And Kush, we've worked together a lot
He's
over the
great.
years. Yeah, he's great. And most recently we did some stuff with Ingrid Jensen's quartet or quintet with her sister down in
Mm.
Baltimore, near his hometown. So, he's an old friend. I've always loved playing with him. I feel like, we kind of come from similar rhythmic ideas, and,
Mm.
and checked out a lot of the same, kind of
Interesting.
history. He's a very big student of Tony's playing, but has done his own
His own thing.
thing with it. And I think really always loved his playing. So him and Eden, I'd always loved Eden's playing, and he's just a fun, really funny guy, and hilarious, and just an amazing music, insanely good musician. And Arnold was, one of my good friends, still remains one of my good friends, and just a really, he's the son of the great bassist Bill Lee. And I was working with Bill Lee's
Billy.
Bill Lee, who's Spike Lee's dad
Yeah.
also. But Bill Lee was a amazing composer and arranger, and I had been playing in his bass quartet. So
Mm,
me and Arnold had gotten to do a lot of stuff recently together, and I don't know. It was just kind of a melding of peers and mentors and colleagues, and I just that's who I wanted to be on it. Dana, big part of that too. I'd met Dana, through Winard's band originally,
that's
doing
right.
some
You were
with
saying you were
Winard,
mentioning that earlier. Man, it
and then
feels like everything kind of fit it
yeah,
perfectly. Just that nothing seems to me, that because sometimes, as I guess as young musicians, sometimes we just want to play with our heroes, and that's cool. But this is so organic the way that you mentioned you've
yeah.
played with this with them and it just made sense. Hey, I got this music I want to put out, and you guys be part of it, and it just so can we let's listen to this tune. This is also one of your compositions, and you mentioned earlier that it was based off of one of your favorite books, right?
Yeah, the title comes from my favorite childhood book, Where the Wild Things Are,
Where the wild things
and
are.
which eventually became a famous Spike Jones film, which I still have yet to see. I've not seen
Oh,
the film,
there you go.
but
So
you've seen it. Is it good? Have
I
you seen
haven't, but I can
it?
check. I want to check out the song, and then I want to check out the book, and I want to check out the movie.
All in due time, right? All
Yeah,
in due.
yeah. I mean, man, I get to learn so much stuff in this. This that. Hey, that's how when my producer over here said, "Hey, it's gonna be your turn too." I was like, "Hey, for sure. I'm down to learn some stuff." So let's listen to this track. We're gonna play both the intro, and the main track, which is you were saying earlier, is basically the same work
It's the same. They were cut in half for radio.
for radio play.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So this is where the wild things are.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, man. Like you're doing poetry. Yeah, man. Great tune. Jeez, like all the way from the beginning. Uh, man, it definitely just it paints a whole picture there, and it brings me to the point, man, that you also write for film, right? Like, is there a connection there, like with this tune or?
I mean, I definitely, I'm influenced by cinematic writing.
Yeah.
I love Bernard Herrmann, who did all the Hitchcock films. He's always been a big, I've always been a big fan. I guess as a child, I loved movies, and
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of cinematic feeling to songs. So when I do write songs, I guess I'm trying to get some sense of that it's telling a kind of a story in sound, because I'm not a lyricist. I don't write lyrics, but maybe one
Yet,
day. But
yet.
yes, yes, yes. So I'm trying to get that, find that feeling with that. So that intro was kind of trying to set a mood, and
Right.
then you enter in. It kind of creates a creates a feel,
Yeah.
and it's yeah. So I mean, I do write for film. I got into that a little bit after college, maybe 3 years. I had a friend who was a film director,
Mm-hmm.
actually the daughter of Martin Scorsese, and she needed a short film done for
Wow.
something that was coming in at Tribeca Film Festival that year, 2010, and I had done a
Roots
few
in
things.
water, right? Is that?
Yeah, Roots and Water is the name of that film, and so I had done a few little things before, but mostly just kind of like commercial writing. Nothing that was a film, like a real film, and that was a great 18-minute short, and it kind of got me into a whole. I did another film called Greenwich and 11th, and from there it's gone into other realms
Other
of
pro.
writing for TV and commercials, and that whole scene, and I have yeah, so I've been in that's a kind of another part of my career
That's cool.
that I'm looking to expand more. I mean, I've in recent years I haven't been doing as much, but it's been a lot of more performance and touring. So it's very time consuming work. You really do have to set aside and dedicate some time to it when projects do come up, because you're looking at a fast turnaround a lot of the time for a lot of that music, and it's another skill set. A lot of that music has to do more with just watching a lot of movies and understanding how it actually, weirdly enough, it kind of links into me being a bass player, because as bass players, we're kind of taking the band leader's requests and making the music happen. That's
Right.
kind of they're kind of like the director of a film, so it's similar. You're kind of making music for the director of the film, when in the same way as a bass player. So the concepts are similar to me, and so I grasped that pretty quickly and understood my role. You're like a sideman for this film as a composer. Very rarely do you really get free reign with creativity, and there are projects that exist like that, but those come kind of further and few between in that realm. You're mostly serving the film, serving the narrative. How do I make this the best possible, not overwhelming it with too much music? There is a style of where you do have a lot of music dictating emotion
Mm-hmm.
in film writing, but that's a little bit more of a dated style, and it really depends on what the narrative entails. So it's a totally different skill set that relates to music, but I wouldn't say it's the same. But the
Yeah.
concept of being a bass player, I related very well to that. It's like the director band leader
I
thing.
love that, man. I love that. Yeah, I was, one of my questions was like, can you explain a little bit of how you jump and put in that hat of TV, writing and composing music for film and all that, and I love that analogy that you. I mean, what else can we do more than what we experience and what and I love that you as a bass player, you can see yourself, you know that's what the forefront is, what's happening, and I'm here making it happen. And
Hmm.
as a router for film, it's the same thing. It's the movie's happening and you making it happen. I mean, the audio is such an important part of any film. So I bet that must have been a crazy thing too, right? Like just a very detailed thing, right? Like I mean, you got to write, you know, having a mind like, I mean, I haven't really actually done work like that, but I'm very
Hmm.
curious of like, were you given a certain like scene and you looked at the scene and then you start
Yeah. So
writing?
how the process is a little bit. You go in with the director. Usually they have temporary music. A lot of the time they've decided on already, but um, you can't clear all that stuff because sometimes artists own the rights and they require a lot of money to clear that kind of music. So,
Mm,
or they have a something that doesn't sound great, but they like the feeling or they're connected to it. So what you basically have to do in there, it's kind of like being a psychologist or something. You have to kind of dissect, like, what are they thinking here with the director. And you go in, it's like, I'd like music from this point. They call them spotting sessions, from this point to this point. And you go in there and you kind of have to find, well, how is this cue going to work? How does it relate to the emotion of the scene? How does it connect to what I've written previously? It's kind of like it's a whole creative endeavor,
mm-hmm.
where you're trying to remain seamless and out of the way, but also guide the narrative and guide the direction of the film.
Yeah.
It's a really cool art form. But it's its own thing. And I remember one really well known film score was from LA, was telling me about it when I was trying to get started getting into it. He said it doesn't have as much to do with music as you may think. And I thought that was a interesting, and I took that advice well.
Wow.
Because
Can
he's
you
like,
expand on that?
yeah. Because I mean, there is orchestration to it. There is, definitely John Williams is one of those guys, and there's guys that have done it, and get to make those type of films where they do. Spielberg likes those orchestrated
Right.
things. A
That's
lot of the
right.
time, a lot of art film scoring in recent years has become a lot of soundscaping and finding kind of different kind of sounds and ways to relate. It's changed a bunch.
Mm.
The art form has really grown a lot, just from music in the background to being, you're also doing, like you're doing other jobs as well. You might
Yeah.
be, doing found sounds, and you just have to be creative. They want you to stay creative. Some of the most creative musicians I have worked with can be film scores because they have all these weird. So I have a valve trombone, and I got all these kind of wild instruments, and I'm because it just sounds cool, and and
And it
it's neat.
fits. It fits
They're
that
looking,
specific. Yeah.
yeah, they're looking for the odd thing that you might not be able to pick out what it is when you hear it.
Oh, that's very
You know?
interesting, man.
So,
Man, so
and
that's so awesome that you've explored and you've done this kind of projects, and it brings me
mhm,
to the point, man, that that I'd like you to tell us more about is that what is it that you are doing nowadays to continue your career? I mean, to me, it's coming very clear that you do playing, that you I imagine you do some teaching, that you do
yes,
some film scoring, that can you tell us about like the do you want to call it the hustle of the musician,
yeah,
or like
yeah.
surviving in 2021? Like, can you talk
Well,
about the business
yeah,
side of that?
yeah. I think, well, this past year has really been quite a whirlwind for everybody. It stopped so many things and production of so many things that
Yeah,
it really has been kind of rethinking. I guess I've always been one to think on my feet, and I really wanted. I got into film scoring. I got into, playing other styles of music, playing both electric and upright, just so I
that's
could stay
right.
working. Being versatile was always been my thing, so I can stay working and pay the bills.
Yep.
And, I always thought and also that's why I got into to jazz too. That was a reason, because when I first started music, about 15 years old, I was thinking to myself, well, I didn't know a lot about jazz. I'd liked some of it, but I didn't really, really know. And I thought, well, this music will give me the tools and the kit, so to
Right.
speak, to
I
be able
see.
to play. It gave me sight reading, it gave me ear training, it gave me understanding rhythm. It just gave me a lot of tools.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, if I don't become a jazz musician, at least I'll have that as my background. And then I fell in love with the art form, and I realized, man, this is so great, especially as a bassist, because as bassists, we play a role a lot of the time, a support role. It's super important, and you have to love that role.
That's right.
But at the same time, jazz was one of the few of those, of all the genres, where you really do get to step out and have a voice too, which I liked. I liked that your role as a supporting musician could have a voice. Like, I understand from one note, oh, that's Ron Carter, oh, that's Buster Williams, or
Mm-hmm.
and not that those other genres don't have that too, but it was just you could take solos more often, and like
Right.
I felt like that was something that is good to have as part of your identity as well. I mean, it's definitely a small part of what we do, but it just kind of gives you that extra individuality,
Hmm.
and it feeds it. But my role of just playing bass, making it feel good, picking great notes, and just listening. I love that. I love that feeling.
Man, and making it happen when you got a solo like that solo in the last piece, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sound, like you said, when you talk about like with Ron, and he was like, you have to have a solid sound and all that. Man, it's
Mm,
beautiful stuff that you do for sure, and
thanks.
appreciate that you share with us. So speaking about that, the next thing that we want to show is, I would say, it's part of those activities that you do as a musician, as a performer. Uh, can you tell us about this? We want to show Sam Dillon's trio. Um,
Okay, cool.
that you
So,
feature on that too. You guys are
mhm.
playing. What's the tune that you guys are playing?
Oh, I've never been in love before. So this is an old
Old
standard. I think
standard.
Frank Loescher wrote it.
That's right.
And I've always really enjoyed this tune. This was Sam's gig. I played it a lot with Sam, and me and Sam have developed a relationship.
Who is this Sam, man?
And Sam, he's good, man, and very, very talented.
Man, we need to have him too.
You
So
should, you should,
shout
you should.
out Sam. Expect a call
Yeah,
from
yeah.
us, or we've been with man. Sam and I have been trying to like do something together for the longest time. Like either have him at one of our secret shows, and he probably thinks that, yeah, man, this guys don't know, but it's not that. We really love his playing. It's just been really crazy, moving total directions. But we'll do it. So this video, going back to it, is part
Hmm.
of us. Is this part of a series of concerts, or what is this that you guys doing?
Yes. So a wonderful young, believe he plays tenor, correct? Yeah.
Um,
Uh, you know
he might,
Alex.
but I think he plays alto mainly. I remember
Alto
him.
mainly. Okay. I just met him recently, and he's been doing a
Austin,
really
right? You mentioning you talk?
Austin.
Yeah,
Austin.
Austin.
Sorry, yes, it's not Austin. Really, really, really sweet guy. I had met him through. I guess he had worked with Sam, and Sam had him be a part of his series just recently, Easter Sunday in New York when I was back up there. And
Nice.
Sam called me and said, since I've worked in Sam's band a lot over the years, and he's worked in mine, he just called me and said, "Hey, man, would you be willing to do this?" And I said, "Sure, man." I said, "Well, we have this gig. I have a gig with my band actually down in Houston that was actually moved because of COVID. It was supposed to be last April actually, and now they've moved it to
Oh.
this October. But it's going to be a really cool outdoor festival where we'll be opening for the Great Mavis Staples, and
Hmm.
it's at this wonderful outdoor park downtown called Discovery Green. And Sam is part of that quartet, and Perry is a wonderful guitar player who I've played in his trio over
Hmm.
the years. And he will be part of that band too, along with the great drummer Jay Sawyer, who worked with Freddie Cole for a long time before he recently passed.
Freddie,
And
that's right.
in Jay's, Caroline Davis, he's worked with a lot of people. So they're all great friends and amazing musicians. And I said, why don't you reach out to Perry? He might be available, and that would be a good vibe because we're already playing together coming up. So this is from that concert, and I just really like our chemistry together, and thought it was something nice to show because I showed you a couple things that are a little bit older.
Yeah.
This is very recent. Yeah.
Yeah, man, we're excited to check it out, and it's funny how you, as you mentioned, sometimes, hey, we have a gig coming up. Let's just get another gig in there so that we can.
Get us a little,
I see
get us
that. I
vibe.
see that. I see you. That's good, man. So yeah, let's check this out. This is Sam Dillon Stream featuring our special guest Marcos, and you guys are playing "I've Never Been in Love Before." I hope you guys enjoy it. Man, thanks for sharing that, man. That's a really cool thing. Shout out to Brave Sounds. That's right. That you guys collaborated with them on this. Sam,
Hmm.
man, I love Sam. I love your playing. I love
Thank
everybody's playing. It was wonderful, and I love that we were just talking off camera too. That this new younger musicians are doing these things and collaborating with different generations. That's awesome, man. It's really
you.
cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah. How when is it that you guys filmed that?
That was Easter Sunday.
Oh, that was
So
like that's right.
that,
You mentioned it
yeah, real close, just a week, maybe, yeah, a little over a week ago. And yeah, and then I'm doing one on June 6th there at Brave
with
Sound.
them. Oh wow,
Yes, with them. So I'll be doing one with them. Yeah, there's a few kind of neat ones coming up. I'm doing a few in May with Noah Preminger. We have some couple of them going on in Boston, and I'll be doing one at Brave Sound on June 6th, and still putting the personnel together for that. I might do quartet, I might do trio, so might
man.
even do duo. So there's
Right.
I've been keeping busy with a fair bit of these kind of things.
That's
I
really
did,
cool. Maybe we definitely have to talk about maybe having you guys more of part of one of our secret shows once we get it
yeah,
rolling more and everything.
love to,
we
yeah.
that's what I was just mentioning earlier with Sam. We've been talking about that. Hopefully, as things open up and we get rolling, we can do more secret shows maybe outside and stuff. Because our secret shows we collaborate with local businesses, and we bring bring an audience, we bring a good show. We usually have a feature artist and an emerging
Cool.
artist, and we film the whole thing. And so for the people checking it out, you can go to our YouTube channel and check out some of the things that we do. And the last one we did, I was mentioning it earlier too, is that it was at the National Jazz Museum in Harlem with
Ooh,
uh,
nice.
with Jerome Jennings
Oh,
and his
nice.
band, and then we also had this very young musician. She's a great player, bass player. Also talking about bass player and the new. No, she's going to Manhattan School of Music. Yeah. That's right. Um, but Destiny
Cool.
Diggs, she was great too. So
Nice. Nice.
man, it's also like a networking thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, Jerome and I go back, man. Yeah, that's great. You guys did a concert with him. I love his music. His records sound great, and
Yeah,
he's just the sweetest guy ever, man. And just cool, just cool dude.
man,
Cleveland.
it's
Yeah,
definitely, man. Yeah, man.
yeah.
Hey, Marcos, it's been such a pleasure, man, to have you in the show. You're a young, strong bassist, and nothing is stopping you, man. Nothing will stop you.
Appreciate it.
So, we really enjoy your energy and your knowledge of like the stuff that you're doing and the music that you're playing, and
Thank
I personally love the way that you brought your roots of the borderland of
you. Yeah,
Laredo.
and
And
you too, man. I think that's so neat that it's nice to see some of us up here, doing it. So
man,
it's really
we
cool.
got to, man, there's a lot of us
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
love this music back home too. and
yeah.
and I think if anything, obviously we're following our dream, following our hearts. We love this music so much, and I really admire how you really came through with your just bringing who you are. Like
Thank you. I really
that's
appreciate that.
that
That
really
was the
means a
goal.
lot.
Yeah. So to see you recognize that, that means something to me. Really. Thank you so much.
Definitely, I think a lot of a lot of kids and artists that are trying to make it. It's important for them to see, hey, hey, Marcos is up there. He's doing it
Yeah.
in New York, and like you said, you're doing a thing here, a thing over there. You're doing some tours. We want to wish you the best, man.
Thank you, man.
As things open up, and like I said, if we can collaborate more and more things with some of our programs, we'll
Mm,
be more than happy to do so.
would
So
love to, man.
appreciate it,
Would love
man.
I
Definitely.
appreciate you guys.
Can
Thank you so
you
much
can
for
you
all you
give
do.
us some last words on Jazz Appreciation Month?
On Jazz Appreciation Month. Oh, well, I guess, study the history of this music. It's a for me a big part of it is get with someone older that has has spent some time with some of the elders. For me that was just invaluable information that I feel like has given me the ability to work more, because it gives you these little details that you might not learn otherwise. You can learn a ton in school, don't get me wrong. I
Yeah,
think school is important. You do need all those fundamentals. You need to know your theory, your scales, all those building blocks. But really, like what makes the listener that outside of education listen to you is I think these little details you learn from all those guys, because you still have to play music for people. It may be instrumental music, but how do you kind of connect to that soulful side? How do you connect to play what you truly hear and create your own voice? Because at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. You want to take all these little bits and pieces from all these masters of the music and then create your own kind of pot of soup, or gumbo with it.
that's
And
right.
I think that that's really the ultimate goal for all of us, to find our own sound. And you have to crawl before you can walk, and transcribing, learning from these guys, hanging around them, kind of learning about like how their creative process is a huge part of it. Because you really, how did they get to that point? I remember Billy Hart saying something to me like that. My job when I joined his academy band, he said, my job is to teach you what you're going to meet so many great musicians in your life, but how do you become a Dave Holland or a Scott Colley or a Christian McBride? What separates their little things that they're doing?
Hmm.
Because there's so many great players that you have to kind of see what they're doing and kind of learn from that. And
Yeah.
I think that that was invaluable information that Billy Hart was able to bestow on me.
Man, that's wonderful, and thanks for sharing that. I think if anything, this music has really changed our lives for good. So thank you for sharing those words, and again, thanks for coming into the Jazz Exchange, especially to the Exchange Live sessions,
Thank
and
you.
we're
It was a
so
blast.
we're so happy that we were able to have this conversation with you. We'll it's gonna be out there for people to come back and check out what you were thinking maybe 10 years back. Hey, let me check out what Marcos was talking about before.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
thank you so much again from the bottom of our hearts, and thanks for everyone that it was listening to our show. Remember, next week we actually have at the same time on Wednesday at 8 o'clock on the same place at the Facebook of the Jazz Exchange and the YouTube channel. We're also streaming. I know it's a new thing we're doing on YouTube. We're streaming, but you can also check this out on YouTube. Um,
Cool.
Next week we have um, Karina Collis, who's an amazing
Oh,
drummer.
yeah,
Um,
she's from San Luis, right?
that she's from San exactly she's from San Luis. She's in Mexico. We just spoke with her a couple of weeks ago. She's excited to come on. So she's
Think we
got
taught at the same school in India, actually, but different times.
that's right. Yeah, she mentioned
Oh,
she's going to India for
yeah.
about for 7 months or something like that. She's
Wow.
but
Great.
anyways, well, I won't talk more about that because we will have her next week.
Yeah, sorry,
but
sorry.
uh but Marcos, thank you so much, and thanks everyone for checking it out, and we'll catch you next time, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, gracias por todo.
Hey, gracias a ti. Thank you so much.